too enthusiastic about getting to know the youth in the organization. So it wants some of us to think, okay, so what do we do about that in this early club? So if clubs are associated with larger organizations, there may be a vetting process, right? Like the school system. Before I could be a roadie for the high school band, I had to go through a vetting process and have a background check and all that. As a scout leader, there's a vetting process. Every year, scout leaders have a criminal background check. The Methodist Church has a program called Safe Sanctuaries that sets up safety protocols throughout the facilities that churches have. So one of the things that we were talking about is it may be worthwhile to consult the astronomical to see if they have some guidance on how to make sure our clubs, our outings, our meetings, especially when we're doing things in the dark, are safe. We know that the dark is not unsafe, but we want to make sure that everybody is safe. So here's a quick rule of thumb. Anytime an adult is having interaction with a youth, there should be 2 adults present. You should have a 2-deep approach, right? So if a youngster is at a public observing event, and we always have youngsters, we love having youngsters, we want to get them fired up, like John got fired up when he was, I don't know, 6 years old or whatever, when Kennedy made the announcements, and he got involved. But we want the kids to be excited, we want to be safe. So if you've got a telescope, you're showing kids stuff with a telescope, have a second member next to you so that you've got some back. But just a word, we want to pass it along, we want to make sure everything we're doing is safe. We do not want to have, CNN show up with a satellite truck and ask questions, and we do not want anybody to get hurt. Yes, sir, Richard.
Well, one of my other hats, you're running a sunset, Florida, and about 2 years ago, the policy to background check on all our members with free public database for there are some free resources to scan look if you do have email me out.
Cool. So Richard, who will be one of our afternoon presenters, Richard Wright, is a consultant. We didn't know we had him. So yeah, if you send us that resource, we'll definitely pass that along. Don't mean to throw a bummer kind of feel to what we're doing, but we do need to make sure everything we're doing is safe, because that's how we grow. We grow by providing safe, fun activities where everybody, kids of all ages, 8 to 80, can get hooked on astronomy and science and have a good fun. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Thank you for your moment. Eat and spend money. We have door prizes boxes. We have people with tickets. We have more tickets. We can take your money by cash. We can take your money by credit card, by debit card. We did have a way to accept chickens, but we lost the coop got moved at the last night. And remember, the door prize tickets and the funds we gain from that are how we fund BoBfest in the future. Yes, sir. We do plastic now. We do PayPal. We do about any way except Bitcoin. We can take your money.
We'll find a way to garnish your.
Well, we are right on schedule, so we've got 10 minutes till the next talk. Our speaker is here, so let's just hang out for 10 minutes, and then we'll get started with the next talk right on schedule.
I don't know. Hey, Dan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I couldn't hear any of that other discussion going on though. So I don't know.
Okay. We'll have the moderator, or I'll relay any questions to you since he can hear me. He can't hear the microphone. Yeah. We can hear you well though through the sound system in here.
Okay. Well, tell me when I should get going.
Okay, I think we're gonna you're not scheduled to start for about 10 more minutes. So
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Hi, Dan. Joe here. Everything's going great. You doing okay today?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Great.
I couldn't find the Facebook stream though. I went to your event.
You have to look
page.
for the Catawba Valley. No, wait a minute. Is it the Facebook?
Regional.
The Regional Gathering of Amateur Astronomers.
Well, I found the event Facebook page, but I didn't see any link there to click on to join, to see the stream. Did you just start streaming?
Unfortunately, I don't use Facebook, so I'm not sure what to tell you.
Yeah.
Gary, who's right behind you on another computer here, he says that he's monitoring it on his own phone. So maybe he can come over here and tell you how to find it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay.
And Megan's got it on her phone right here too.
Well, I'm looking at my PC and I just don't, I'm on the Regional Gathering of Amateur Astronomers, AKA BoBfest Facebook page, and I don't see anything to click on to get the stream. There's no link. I don't know.
He's gonna be broadcasting to everybody.
Yes, already is.
So I can shut down my live.
That should be good. Because it's really just me.
So you were watching my live feed? Well, I know it was.
So,
I can, you can go to the regional.
of course, I guess we just pass around the mic sessioning, wireless.
Hey, David. Does he have the ability to share screen? Does he have the ability to share screen?
We can make it that way. It's under security now. There we go. Good call.
For the kids in the audience, so for the kids at heart in the audience, I've been asked to remind you that the activity room, family activity room is now open. And you can go down there and do whatever they have going on in that room. I think it's actually.
Great stuff.
And
Library is there too.
things from Caton County Library as well. So feel free to take advantage of that resource.
All right, Dan, we're given the warning bell to bring everybody back in the room.
Okay. I found the stream, I guess. Finally.
Okay.
I'm not sure though. It's like, has it been streaming for an hour or so?
That was John's. We're live streaming yours from Zoom, so we started a new live stream. It should be on the same page though.
About 5 minutes, Dan. Actually, 2 minutes.
We can get everybody back into the main venue here. We will proceed with the next keynote. The next talk is about, again, can we, close the doors here? Welcome back. It's especially great to see some faces that we haven't seen in a very long time. And that again is part of the legacy process. So welcome back. On the screen, you see our next speaker. His name is Dr. Dan Caton. He is a professor of astronomy at Appalachian State University and director of the Dark Sky Observatory, one of the greatest facilities around. It's really one of the gems of Carolina. And Dan and I have known each other a long time. We like to joke that we go back to the place. I'm not sure what geological era Dan would date us back to, but I've known him pretty much in introduce Dan as an active researcher who specializes in, I believe, eclipsing binary stars, dabbled in planet hunting, and lots of other things. He routinely serves as an expert witness in legal proceedings regarding lighting issues, and he's known for his teaching, and he has always been a very reliable friend of the and a very enthusiastic BoBfest presenter over the years. He's going to talk today about light pollution, and I believe he's going to mention the Starlink satellite. This guy named Elon Musk, who is, has been doing some strange things. And as a matter of fact, just last night, he launched another 40-some Starlink. That launch went all around midnight-ish last night. So I'm going to turn the program over to Dan Caton, and Dan is joining us via Zoom. So Dan, if we can just get you to say some things to make sure that we can hear you on the speakers here, and take it away.
Am I on? Because I can't hear a thing you're saying, Joe.
You're on.
Okay. Well, thank you for the invitation. I couldn't hear anything about what you said. So anything said about me was probably lies, knowing Joe, whether good or bad.
It was the old Pleistocene joke that we liked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I do date back to the Pleistocene. Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully that will work. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about light pollution, the threat from LEDs and satellite constellations. I'm Dr. Dan Caton. I'm an astronomer at Appalachian State University. I've been here since '81. And I've known Joe for all those years too, I think. And so I appreciate being invited to give a presentation here. I'm also a member of the American Astronomical Society, and in particular, its Committee on Light Pollution, Radio Interference, and Space Debris. And we'll see how our committee's been impacted by all of that now. Of course, a member of the Dark Sky Association, the North Carolina section or chapter of the Dark Sky Association. Let me get my laser pointer here. And so I've been in this game for a long, long time. What we're going to discuss, I'm going to do some of the basics of light pollution and some of the solutions, and then we're going to look at these latest threats, which are coming at us and are going to be difficult, if not impossible, to stop. And maybe they can be mitigated some, but only to some degree. Those are LEDs that are wonderful light sources, but have their own issues. And the threat of the internet satellite constellations that are appearing in the sky. And some of you probably have already experienced those. So this is a general talk, a general primer to start out with. So I hope I will probably ruin the nightscape for some of you if you haven't been introduced to the concepts of light pollution. I always strive to ruin your view of the urban and suburban sky and know why it's being ruined for you. And I don't mean to offend anybody, particularly when I talk to a group that might include some business people. Most lighting installations in this country were not designed. They were simply installed, they were specified, they were put up, often with all due respect, by landscape architects who had no training in lighting at all. So if you're a business owner or had been and you own some bad lighting, I'm sorry, but you probably weren't at fault. It's what you got. So the basic problem is sky glow, light reflection off of particles in our sky. Large cities are visible from tens of miles at least, and the stars are not brighter out here in Boone in the country. The sky is darker. It's a contrast issue. And I remember getting a phone call from a guy we had teaching part-time for us once a year in medical physics, and his main residence was in Atlanta. He called me up and said, Dan, why is the sky so dark here in Atlanta? And I had to think about it. And what it was is, well, yeah, the sky was dark, but the ambient lighting was shutting down the irises on his eyes. So the stars were dark too. So if you have a lot of, you can experience this if you walk out from like a grocery store or something at night and out in the parking lot, and you can see the direct filaments of the lights, and the sky looks very black, and you can't see any stars either, even if it's clear. So it's a contrast issue. So I got into this initially concerned about our dark sky observatory, which is about 20 miles from Boone off the Blue Ridge Parkway. And so I was interested in protecting that. But it's more than just us professional astronomers. Of course, there's probably over 100,000 of you hobbyists in the US alone. And so for you, I don't have to tell you, this is your passion. These things you buy or build are just amazing instruments. You gather at Southern Star. This was Mid-Atlantic Star Party a long time ago when they met in Robbins. And so, for you guys, this is your bass boat. And so this is your hobby. And so it's a concern, a threat to you. And I do have to throw in here a comment that, it's wonderful to go to these dark sites and observe the stars. But when you go back home, you've got to do something. If you don't, then these bubbles of light over the towns and cities are going to just expand. And eventually you may not be able to drive to a dark site. And I don't just accuse you, but we professionals are equally bad about this. And the AAS, our committee is greatly concerned about the lack of interest in the subject by our own colleagues in professional astronomy who would fly off to Chile or Hawaii to observe and then come back to their lousy lighted city and do nothing about it. And nowadays with remote observing, you're often not even at the dark site when you're observing. So it's an issue we all of us share. It's just as important as, the stars are incorporated in culture and worldwide. And so paintings and music have referred to the sky forever. And I've kind of wondered whether it might be a good master's thesis, at least in music history, to see whether there's been a drop off in references to the skies in songs and in art, maybe art history as light pollution has evolved. So here's the global problem. You can see the lighting is everywhere. You can see the larger cities. You can see the fact that much of the population lives along the coast, and most of the U.S. is in the east and in the west along the shore, and then the greater western part is fairly dark. You have the dark area of the Sahara, which is not very well populated, and central China and Siberia and so forth, where we don't have very many people. Closer examination of the US, you can actually trace the interstates with this in larger cities, and you can see, I'm not familiar with this particular map. I just updated this, so I'm not quite sure. But, you have San Diego and Tijuana down here and the coastal cities of California and the darker areas where we have, really good skies. There's actually an entire journal in the discipline of geography, I guess it's still there, devoted to studying populations based on this signal, based on the light at night as seen by satellites. I'd like to take their data away from them personally. So what's wrong with this picture? It's hard to get a response teaching, giving a presentation remotely, but this was taken back in August 2003. And what's wrong with it is this huge dark area in the Northeast. And this is when there was a power failure at a major energy production facility, and it cascaded. And the reason it cascaded to all these adjacent ones is that most of the US is on an interconnected grid that supports each other, all except those crazy Texans down here. They're their own world, their grid largely does not connect to outside of Texas, but the rest of the U.S. is coupled together. And when one fails, then it makes things fail, and the load transfers to others, and you bring down other stations. And one thing about this is that, and I've heard from several sources that this likely some people saw the stars for the first time in their lives when this happened. As sad as that may be. And I've been told by a couple of sources who have been involved with taking inner city kids in like Los Angeles and take them out into the desert for a camping trip. They have to social engineer it. They have to tell them what they're going to see, or they're going to be frightened by a starry sky. So that's kind of a profound thought. So close to home, I'm up in here. And our observatory is out over here along we're just off the Parkway, which is a county line between Wilkes County and Ashe County. And you guys are down in this area right now. So you got modest lighting. I've been to the beach a lot on our coast, mostly Carolina Beach down here, and just not been impressed. It's a small town. You don't see much of Wilmington at that point, and I'm not been impressed with the skies. It seems like they have a lot of humidity haze. So even if it's dark and quote clear, it's not so great. In Boone, I got this picture from one of the first Appalachian State photographers, John Dinkins, and he had taken this a long time ago. I really need to run this through a modern filtering software to fix the colors, but this is what I got. He gave me a 35 millimeter slide. This is looking at Boone from the fire tower on Rich Mountain above the town. And so I took a picture more recently, but I had to put that as more recently because it's not recent enough. I need to do this again. I took this maybe 20 years ago from the Howard's Knob Park, and I need to do it again. It's on my bucket list, but and you see some stars competing with the light. You see the light has gotten much worse, and this is our stadium, which has been relit since then, but so it's even worse, I think. And I could read my digital watch without using its light with my 40-plus-year-old eyes at that time. And so it's just a lot of ambient light and a few stars trying to compete. I like to point out this at this point too, that not a single photon of light I've shown you on these photographs was meant for my camera or the camera that took the picture or the satellite that took the picture. None of this light was intended for me. It's all excess light, wasted light. The U.S. we waste, I think the number is somewhere in the $2 to $4 billion a year in excess lighting, lighting that does not do anybody any good. So it's an economic problem as well. So where does it come from? Poor fixture design, lack of shielding, over lighting, the attitude, the crime dog McGruff attitude that, well, if a little light is good, then a lot of light is better. Well, that's not true. If a little light is good, then better light is better. Better lighting is better. And poor installation. For a long time, the IDA would not put its seal of approval on fixtures because they could be installed wrong. They've made some concessions on that now, and they do have sort of a approval for certain fixtures. Market pressure. Companies would come into gas stations with old lighting and take a picture of them and put it in Photoshop and jack up the lighting and say, well, we can do this for you. So there's pressure, there's light wars between convenience store gas stations across the corner from each other at an intersection. One of the worst fixtures are floodlights. Here's some floodlights that are aimed almost horizontal, which is just crazy. And so even when they're aimed somewhat down, there's like this guy over here, they're a major source of light pollution. There's no shielding on these fixtures. This was at a mobile home dealer down in North Wilkesboro many years ago. They've moved since or something. An example at night, this was Boone's McDonald's restaurant several years ago. And they had floodlights. Some of them you can't see because they're pointing away from us. This is an ordinary street light. I don't know what this guy is down there, other business. But the floodlights are just, lighting up this place. It's inexpensive lighting because they use poles that are already there. I'm pretty sure that these were leased fixtures, so they're often offered by the power company. And so it's cheap and easy. You don't need to run new lights, new poles, and new wires and stuff. And so this was pretty bad. A better solution to this is so-called full cutoff fixtures or shoebox design. These are not full cutoff. Doesn't mean turning the light off with a switch. It means that the bottom is flat. There's no light emitted above the horizon. All the light goes down. Why do you think these are chosen? In Boone, as before our ordinance at least, about half the fast food places had these, and half of them had the dirty lighting like the McDonald's had. I think Burger King has a national design standard. They're good everywhere that I've seen them, but that's about the only one. But why do you think they're chosen? Because what this thing looks like in the daytime, this is prettier than the Cobra heads. And so we'll take that because the side benefit is less light pollution. So at night, here's what it looks like. McDonald's had to, they renovated probably been 5 or 6 years ago now. And you see they replaced their floodlights with full cutoff lights. And they did this after I helped Boone write its rather simple but effective lighting ordinance that requires full cutoff lighting and IES, Illuminating Engineering Society light levels. And so when they renovated, we had to grandfather in all the junk, but there was a catch in that if you renovate to 10% of the value of the property, then you have to come up to the new appearance standards, which included lighting. So we got the lighting in when Boone wrote its appearance standards. Like you can't paint a building in a primary color here. 10% of the year can be in red or blue or green. And so they were bickering about that. The lighting just kind of came in under the radar. So they saw the code and they met it. And so they used full cutoff lighting. There's some facade lighting that's regulated too, but I'll give you that. I will give you this 10%, not 10%. I'll give you this small amount of lighting here if you'll give me these. And so one thing I'll point out at this point is with this good lighting, what you notice is the poles are lit. You don't see much light from the fixture, but you always notice the poles because you just don't have the glare shutting down your eyes. Acorns and globes are terrible light fixtures. They put up more light upward in the sky than they do down because, well, they've got a support below them. And so there's always a shadow beneath them, which is kind of odd. And these are purely an architectural choice. These would not be allowed commercially at Boone. And our ordinance is just commercial lighting. Billboards, the bad way to light them from below. They're half up, half down. We did not have to deal with this in Boone because prior to the lighting ordinance, we passed an ordinance. We banned off-premise billboards, so you can't even have these in the town limits lit anyway, up or down. You don't have to be a physicist to realize the way that light's going to scatter. Most of the light's going to go up into the sky. If you've ever played billiards, you know where the balls go when you bank it off the edge. And so these photons are largely reflected off into the sky. So it's not a good way to do it. And they're often on all night, even though nobody's actually looking at them. So the other bad fixture is in roadway and area lighting is the so-called Cobra head fixture because of its shape. And you can see it has a sag lens. So 20% or so, or maybe more of the lighting is scattered into the sky. These are actually glaring to the driver too. I think it's true that North Carolina DOT is going completely full cutoff now. So I think these fixtures are going to go away. And so the full cutoff fixtures look like that. They're flat on the bottom. Security lighting is a big deal, especially in residential. This is a common fixture with a globe, plastic bowl underneath it, open bowl, refractor. And they're on dusk to dawn. And it's questionable whether they provide security, especially in a rural environment. Even suburbs, if you're out on your own property, the edge of town, you have one of these guys lighting up your property. A ne'er-do-well driving by or hiking by sees do you have property there, and it's a lighthouse. So it's not clear that these don't just attract burglars, and it's not clear whether they deter burglars or light their work area. A federal meta study a good bit ago now could not conclude whether they were an advantage or a disadvantage. It was not clear. The refractor is very glaring and light polluting. And a frequent light press problem and a neighbor problem. I can't, let's see, I can't barely see, I can't really see the crowd, but you could wave your hand, or if you've had a problem with a neighbor's light, maybe wave your hand up high. And I see some hands waving. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, usually 10% or so of a crowd will have experienced that problem. Without an ordinance, you can't do anything about it. Utility might do some Mickey Mouse spray painting of one side of it or something. The nice Hubble light reflector that replaced that refractor and the GE Sky Guards are no longer made. So there's not a quick and clean refit that you can do with these. And we don't have a residential light control in the town because it is a can of worms, as you can imagine, especially if you ever try to talk to your neighbor. So that's just a problem that and so these are installed by amateurs and utilities. You can go down and buy one at Home Depot or Lowe's and bolt it up, or you can get the utility to put it up there and charge you $9, $10 a month forever. This is a cash cow. They put one of these up with a bucket truck in about an hour, and then they make, they're charging you $10 a month forever. I guarantee you they're not using $10 of wholesale electricity that they buy it at. So these are cash cows. And in some areas, you can't buy these. The National Observatory, Kitt Peak, which is near Tucson, Arizona, in Pima County, you cannot legally buy or install one of these, and the stores cannot legally sell one. You have to have full cutoff lighting. Here's an example of someone who did it on their own. They bought this old 1960s, 70s era gas station out in Deep Gap between Boone and DSO, and they turned it into a house. And here's the old 1960s era gull wing reflectors that have fluorescent tubes in it, and those don't work. So they put up one of these home bought, fixtures they bought at a home improvement store. And you see the wings of this shadow the light where you want it, but they allow it to get into the bedrooms, which is where you don't want it. So this is just the epitome of bad lighting. People don't understand lighting at all. A current issue is converting some of these street lights to LEDs. And I got a call from a Boone resident who was complaining about this, that they had just started doing it. And I went and investigated, and I got this spectrum. I used a little ASense spectrometer. This little guy, he talks to an app on your phone and produces the spectrum. And so it's a little thing about half the size of a cigarette pack. And it's very nice, produces a good spectrum. And this shows a blue spike that I'll talk about in a moment, why this is a problem for us. And it also has a color temperature of 3,700 Kelvin, which if you've done photography with something more advanced than a simple point and shoot, you might be familiar with color temperature. It's basically like the color of a black body spectrum. a star surface. And so 3,700 Kelvin is actually pretty hot. So this is a problem, and I've been wrestling with the town to deal with this. And I have emails that are not being returned from the mayor, former mayor now, and the town manager, who was the former town manager now. So I'll go into round two. The town itself is installing them. And so we need to do something about this. And this is why. So your nighttime color sensitivity is a dashed line. And there's the spectrum of one of these LEDs. And you can see that, yes, the blue spike that the physics of LEDs gives you, period. You have to do something about it. So you're always going to get this blue spike, and it's right where your eyes are most sensitive. And I'm sure that many of you, like myself, driven at night and seen those dang blue headlights coming at you. Your eyes don't want to see that. I guess it's great for the driver of that vehicle because they have it for their eyes, a well-lit road. But this blue spike is a terrible thing. And so that's why you and even we professional astronomers use red lighting at night, because our eyes aren't as sensitive at night to the red light down here. So it doesn't disrupt our night vision. So that's the problem with these. And I've actually had worse spikes than this that I've measured. So these are health concerns. Health concerns started actually with other animals back long ago. It was realized that baby sea turtles that were hatched out were attracted to streetlights and would head that way. I took this at Carolina Beach many years ago. And these are a group that protects turtles. They patrol the beach at dawn every day, early summer, and find where mama waddled up and dug a hole and laid 50 to 100 eggs and left the property, and they mark it, and at that point it's federally protected. And then a couple of months later, the nest boils, as they call it. The birthing goes on, and they actually dug a trench out to the water, sort of slot car style, to make sure that they wouldn't head towards that thing. And I think this is actually the day after or the night after they do an egg count, how many hatched, how many didn't, and they turn in the data to the state and the federal people. But that light was bright enough you could read a newspaper out here at night by it. And I called up Progress Energy, which subsequently merged with Duke Energy, and asked Bob Henderson to do something about that, maybe turn it around. Well, they just removed it. It wasn't even needed. This is a public access point, but they didn't need it. There's enough ambient lighting. You didn't need that. So for people, it's cancer. Okay, so this was noticed maybe 15 years, 20 years ago now, that blind women have a lower incidence of breast cancer than sighted women. So why is this? This had to be investigated, and it was found that blind women's bodies always think it's night, and so they're always making melatonin, which is naturally produced by the body starting maybe 9-10 p.m. It's what makes you drowsy, and you go to sleep. But it's also a side effect, is it's a key antioxidant in the cancer production cycle. And so that's why their bodies were always keeping them charged up with melatonin. And so this is the danger. This is why you don't want blue light. You don't want those cute blue LED night lights anywhere in your house, in the bathroom. You don't want to get in the bathroom and be assaulted by blue light. Your melatonin production will stop for a couple hours. The integrated effect of that over years can produce, higher cancer. So we want to avoid that. Some solutions, you need to make sure your devices are protecting you. An iPhone has something called night shift that you can adjust how warm it is and when it goes on. When it goes on, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. in this example. If you're an Android phone owner, there is a night light function, I think, here. So you can do the same thing on Windows. You can have your monitor do the same thing. This is Windows 11. It's also Windows 10. I think it's all the way back to XP, but not including XP. And if you have some ancient computer running XP, there's something called FLux that you can download for free that does it. And MacBooks, and I'm not a Mac user, but I found this online that there is a way to schedule the same kind of thing. So you want your devices to do this. You don't want to be looking at devices with a lot of blue in them late at night. And for indoor lights, there's a new technology that's the really emerging thing, and that's phosphor converted amber LED bulbs. So I became aware of this at a AAS meeting. We had a splinter workshop on light pollution, and one of the speakers just casually mentioned, don't forget indoors. Yeah, that's right. I mean, most of the time at night, you're not out looking at the stars, half the nights are cloudy, you're not out there, and you've done the right thing, you thought, bought LEDs, but they got that blue spike. And so you've installed bad lighting. Yes, low electric use, but not so good in the spectrum. And so these have a very minimal blue spike. I took this, I used the same spectrometer to take this. I bought a couple of these bulbs for our reading lights in the living room. And you see there's virtually no blue spike. And what it does is there's LEDs in here, but the bulb itself is coated with a phosphor that absorbs the blue and re-emits it in the yellow. In the same way that fluorescent tubes, old-fashioned fluorescent tubes, are coated to absorb ultraviolet and spectral emissions from the gas that's excited that you can't see in that area of the spectrum, and re-emit them in the visible part of the spectrum. So these don't filter it out. It says blocks jarring HEV light. No, it doesn't filter it. That's the only other technology is filter it. And then you throw away your savings. It converts it. And so it puts that energy over in here, and they're very warm looking. 2300 Kelvin is wonderful. And now we can get street lighting in this. So this is the emerging thing that we really should be installing in our street lights. At least we can go to, you can get close to that in a regular LED technology, 2300 Kelvin temperatures. So this lighting that you see flooding the hotels that you might stay at is not just annoying. And you notice it's kind of hard to see, but they've had to put in blackout curtains and everything because they're using floodlights to advertise the presence of this hotel, annoying the guests inside. Car lots are often grossly overlit, and nobody's there at night, so who cares? And they often use astronomically unfriendly metal halide lamps. Those are those big bright things. You'll still see them in like the vegetable section of grocery stores, big metal things with a very bright filament. And metal halide's hopefully going to go away. Sports lighting used to be metal halide, and if you have a power glitch, metal halide takes 10 or 15 minutes before you can turn it back on without killing the bulb from thermal shock. If you've used projectors like you're looking at right now, I think, if you turn that computer projector off, you can't turn it back on for 5-10 minutes because the thermal shock would kill the bulb. So there's problems with metal halides. And so we want to get away from those anyway. Car lots can be done right. Here's one down. This one's actually in Tampa, Florida, and wonderfully done. Again, notice full cutoff. You already see the light of the fixtures, and the cars are nicely lit, and the poles are lit. Always a way to recognize that. Wall packs are one of the worst fixtures. They're installed because, well, we got this building, we got power behind the wall. It's easy to do. These are essentially floodlights bolted on the wall. And we do have I think the twilight moon competing here. But they are available in full cutoff, and you can do it right. This is a bank in Lenore, Bank of Granite, I think. I took a series of pictures down there for a presentation. The group down in Lenore. Wall packs or floods are also used in ATM, which this is that same bank and is a bad example. It's a wall pack. It's not full cut off. And the tremendous glare to the person coming up to use the ATM. Can you see a criminal hiding here? Well, this lighting with the moon and everything and twilight wasn't very demonstrative, but often the glare means you can't see the criminal hiding here ready to assault you. He has a great view of you. You're front lit for him. So these need to be done better. Sports lighting, usually done poorly with lots of light pollution and neighborhood lighting, what we call light trespass. This can be done better with good lighting. So the top right picture is regular lighting, not LEDs, but the poles are, but it's full cut off and you can barely see any light from the picture. But again, you see the poles, a well lit field. These are modern LED lit facilities with excellent lighting. I mean, there's just nothing out here in the neighborhood. The field is wonderfully lit and it's low cost electricity LEDs and everybody's happy and the sky is happy. So this is the kind of thing we need to get people to do. And there are major design companies will be more than happy to design the lighting for a facility. They often use fixtures like this. A couple of vendors, I took this when I gave a presentation on green lighting, as they called it back, 10, 12, 15 years ago down in Charlotte. It was a lighting conference and I gave a talk, this kind of talk at that point, and I took some pictures there. This was at an IDA meeting. These are Musco lighting fixtures. Musco are they're the people that light all the NASCAR tracks, which is a very difficult lighting challenge. You can't blind the drivers, they've got to be able to see, and you can't blind the spectators. So it's really tough. It's about $1 million a mile to properly light a NASCAR track for night racing. And you see all of these have these baseball cap brims, and it's kind of hard to see. Here you can you see this subreflector, and these additions, this stops the light pollution of the sky, and the subreflector stops the light trespass into the neighborhood. And so these cost an extra $100 a pop, which in the price tag of a sports facility is nothing. And so when I saw this, I mentioned to the vendor, you ought to talk to Watauga County. They're building a new high school. This was back when they were starting to build. And so they've got to meet our lighting ordinance, which requires light control packages on sports lighting. And so, well, we will, but we just sold a ton of lighting to your university. They did not pick this. So I missed the boat. Lots of emails later. I was not a happy camper. Nothing I could do to stop it. We're probably going to relight our stadium pretty soon with LEDs. Another year or two, the LEDs will be cheap enough that you make it back in just a few years. So hopefully we're going to get away from this stuff. Here were those lights before they were aimed. This was when it was being built, but you can see the light control packages. They have not aimed the fixtures at this point, though. Gas station canopies are usually terrible. I think this one, when I measured it, was something like 60 foot candles. A foot candle is the amount of a light, nominally the amount of a light of a candle 1 foot away from it. That's the historical origin. It now has a mathematical physics definition of flux, but these are, often lit, just way overlit. And you compare it to this is 6 foot candles. And this is one of the 2 stations in Boone. They're now speedways, but I took students around. We measured this as a student project. We measured all, at that time, 17, 18 gas stations, because the ordinance when we passed the ordinance, they had 7 long years to come down to 30-foot candles. And why 7 years? Because that was what was used successfully in the billboard ordinance, where they had 7 years to get rid of the billboards or the fines started kicking in. So they'd come down. I just couldn't believe it. I was in the van. They went out and made the measurements. I said, really? go back and measure again, and measure again. And then before I turned the report into town, I went and measured. It was 6-foot candles. You pull in here, your eyes open up, everything's good. You can still gas up at 6-foot candles, and you're saving a ton of money on electricity and saving the scatter light off the pavement that will get to the sky. So the other new threat are internet satellite constellations. So here's a picture. Obviously, you guys could guess better than me. Maybe, I don't know, a 20-minute exposure or something pointed to the North Celestial Pole, and we see the stars streaking. And these are a bunch of light streaks from Elon Musk SpaceX Starlink satellites that he aspires to have lots of, to provide internet to the world, essentially. And so he launches these periodically. I think I've randomly encountered some of these. I will have to put the disclaimer that I have not run an orbit program to confirm that what I saw on these nights were Starlink streaks, but some of these have to be, because I've observed for many years now remotely from my home. So I've got a computer that I'm talking to you on right now running, and I have connected to the telescope, the computer that's taking the images, MaxMDL software taking a sequence of images, usually for all night on a particular object, eclipsing binary star. And this is a little box I've drawn in the software to keep an eye on how good the telescope tracking is. And anyway, so I will walk into the room, I'm not in there all night. I get it going, it's all automatic. And I go to the living room watching TV or reading or something. And occasionally come in here and dang it, there's another one. I mean, I'm seeing one out of 25 images, and I walk in the room and I'm getting these. And I just did not get them this much prior to that. So it's just a real problem. And with large telescopes, and some of our committee members have done modeling with this. The streak on a large telescope like the Vera Rubin telescope that's going to come online pretty soon down in Chile. It's going to image the entire sky that they can see on a cadence of every 3 nights. So Vera Rubin telescope is going to discover everything that moves or changes. Anyway, here they're getting ready to crank up first light, and a streak on their images has been modeled and tested on similar CCDs. It won't hurt the CCD, but in their case, you get aliasing streaks. There's just no way to model that out. So you got Discovery software that's going to see this stuff a couple hours after sunset, a couple hours before sunrise. And this is going to be a huge problem. So here's Elon Musk Starlinks. He wants over 42,000 of them. I think that may be a bigger number. There are others in the game. Amazon is getting ready or has launched some. OneWeb has some already launched. That company went bankrupt and came back from the dead because they had an FCC license where it was valuable. And so Britain and some other country bought them. And there are possibly going to be others. So we're looking at 100,000 of these things up. And they're a problem in light pollution, obviously, radio interference. They're transmitting, internet connection, and space debris, because they last 5 or 6 years, and now you've got to deorbit them or something. They will burn up, but geez, we're going to have those too. So our committee is on light pollution, radio interference, and space debris. We've been absorbed by this for 2 years. We kind of all knew that it was in progress, but nobody thought about it. And these at 500 kilometers up, they're trying to get them down to 7th to 8th magnitude. So you won't see them visually. You do see them on the way up, as those streaks saw, and people have reported seeing those. They tried some fixes on this. DarkSat was a version. They just made it dark, but that was a problem in space because the sun lighting it up overheated the whole thing, the electronics. So thermal control with satellites is an art and a science, and it's difficult. So that didn't work. Then they have visor sats, so these actuated visors, they can control the block the sunlight. I think they're launching that now, but I don't know for sure. That was successful and it helped, but I don't know if that's what they're launching. So here's the home system. This is not going to talk to your phone, although there's the rumor that, I don't know what they're going to call it, 6G, could talk to your phone. So it's a home dish for home internet. It has modest baud rates, 50 to 150 megabits down for watching movies, 10 to 25 megabits up. And that compares to like Spectrum cable, 200 up to 200 down, and a lousy 12 up. If you're trying to teach from home, as I did, that would not be very good. I'm actually on fiber optics at home, and our observatory's on fiber optics. Both of them benefits of the 2009 American Recovery and Something Act, that from that recession that took fiber out to the hinterlands. And so I have 500 up, 500 down symmetrical, which is really odd. Not common, but available. These have a low latency delay, 30 milliseconds, because they're relatively low orbit. They're on LEO, as we call it, low Earth orbit, 550 kilometers. And the already existing HughesNet and Viasat use geostationary satellites, and so they're 20 to 25 down. They're not great, 2 to 4 up, but they have almost a second of delay. I'm not a gamer. I don't have the gaming gene. But if you are, I understand that just isn't going to work in a first-person shooter game that you're competing with. So yeah, so it's an improvement over that. Equipment's about $500. Most people think they're losing money at that, the loss leader, and $100 a month for service. And that dish has a warmer to prevent icing up, which is something I've experienced on my DirecTV dish. But cats like it, so you got to go clear the cats out occasionally in the winter. Anyway, but it's the best option right now compared to DSL, which is slower than anything I've mentioned up here, and is a little flaky. Cable modems, you share bandwidth with your neighbors. So if you got 5 kids down the block doing gaming, you might have trouble. So it's better than this. And it's better than nothing. The so-called last mile problem, maybe some of you live outside of town in the sticks. And if you don't have broadband out there, that last mile from the company to provide it's going to cost you $10,000, $20,000. It's just not economical. So we will not stop them. Our only hope is for efforts to darken those satellites. How you can help with light pollution, you can look at your own lights. Can you have a cap? Well, that's not an option now anymore with the disappearance of the SkyGuard. You can put it on a switch or a timer, a motion sensor, lower wattage bulb. You can complain at restaurants that have glaring lights. If there's some road lights that bother you, you can try to complain, but that's difficult because then that brings in DOT. Neighbor problem, good luck. There is no sage wisdom there, unfortunately. I was involved in a recent light trespass case. I was contacted by an attorney looking for an expert witness. This property is in suburban Wilmington, North Carolina, we're on the coast. And the homeowners association had a roadway fixture installed to light up some mailboxes on a cul-de-sac. Well, it lights these 2 adjacent properties, and this guy, I don't know, spent $70,000 on a pool and a hot tub, and all this is light from that picture, which is behind me in this picture. Yes, that's the moon, but it's negligible light. It doesn't, it was a hazy night. Maybe a gibbous, it looks like a gibbous, waxing gibbous moon, but this light's coming from behind me, all of this light. And so it goes in their bedrooms. And he had the glare of that light on his trip from his bedroom to his bathroom in the middle of the night. He's a contractor, drank lots of water during the day. And so he's up a few times at night getting assaulted by the light. So the homeowner sued the HOA, and I was contacted to be a witness along with a realtor. So another view shows the problem. It's pretty bad. This is the perpetrator of the light. This is a smudge on my lens. I didn't realize at the moment I took it. But, and this is the mailboxes. The neighbor, the one street's worth of mailboxes, no individual mailboxes, and they lit it with a roadway fixture with this kind of pattern, which goes out to the neighboring houses, and it's just overkill. It's inappropriate fixture. There's a spectral flux. There's a blue spike. And so here's looking at the light from the property over the hot tub. So I provided photos as a witness, made measurements, took spectra, provided medical references, including the AMA white paper, American Medical Association white paper some years ago, good paper on the medical problems, the health risks. And I pointed out that the IDS 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. So this was developed jointly with the Illuminating Engineering Society, which for the United States is the ANSI standards group that specifies lighting for the US, and the IDA. So they work together on this. And, lighting has to be useful, clear purpose, targeted, low light levels, controlled, and a warm color. And this violated every one of these principles. And I pointed that out in an opinion paper that I wrote on this case. The realtor did a survey, they were paid as a consultant, and they asked, they showed it to something like 25 or 30 people and asked who are looking for a house of this kind, would you buy it? And most of them would not buy it. And those that would ask for a substantial price reduction. So it was a result. We did not quite go to court. This was right during COVID. So I didn't want to go to court. It's about a year ago. And luckily it was settled. We won. And I asked the attorney, can I refer other people to you? And he said, yeah, but it's an expensive case. Says these can cost 5 figures. This one cost 6. So these two homeowners incurred $100,000 more expense to win this, but they had to remove the light. And there was some economic settlement, and I don't know anything about, not privy to. So anyway, is there a street light shines in your window at night? Well, you need to do something about it. Because that's just not a good thing, as we've seen. You can write letters to your newspaper, post on social media. And I've got to get more into doing this. We have a Facebook page for the North Carolina Dark Sky Association chapter, but IDA chapter, but I need to post more on my own account because I have people who might share it, and it might go more general than posting on the IDA page. Teach your friends about good and bad lighting. Point it out when you're out with them. Spoil their view. You can spend some time at darksky.org and become more of an expert. I hope everybody here already knew a little bit, and now hopefully after this 1 hour, you'll know more than 99% of the people you'll encounter. It's all an education issue, really. You can join the IDA, and you can develop a local ordinance in your own home. So small towns like 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 could start with the Boone Code, which is online. It's simple code. It's prescriptive in that it tells you what the lighting levels you have to meet are. Asheville's developing, no, Hendersonville's developing one that will specify how many lumens of light per acre, the IDA's model lighting ordinance approach. The trouble with that is enforcing it. So they install the lighting and you don't know what's up on that pole. You don't know how many lumens it's putting out. Our code specifies the foot candles in different situations. And you can measure that with even $100 light meter is good enough. Certainly precise enough. But larger cities will probably have to use the model lighting ordinance, which has lighting zones. Downtown can have more lighting, of course, than rural areas, that kind of thing. So there are ways to do it. So including, if you were really observant, and you are observers, you might have noticed the background on this started with an orange sodium vapor color, and the background, the sides has gone to black. And hopefully we can make the orange glow of sodium vapor, or maybe now the more bluish glow of LEDs go away. So thank you for your time and attention.
If you have any questions, ask, and then we will relay them to Dan. I have a question.
I can barely hear you guys, by the way. Just saying. I'm going to stop screen sharing and out of this mode.
Anyway, I get you a copy of this. Take the city council sometime. Get a copy of this.
The question, Dan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can barely hear you. Let me stop screen sharing. When you go screen sharing, everything gets wrecked here. Okay.
How about now? I'm closer to the mic.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah.
We have a question here. We have a local resident here who would like to know if you could provide a copy of your presentation.
Absolutely. I always make that available. We can figure out how to get it to you. Let me see. I was just checking how big it is. It's huge, I think. No, it's not. How come it?
Move my observatory. Add insult to injury.
I'm trying to see.
Loaded by nine light that's hit my eyeballs and close my pupils.
He can't hear you.
Okay.
You're too far away from the mic. But we have a local resident here who's had some very bad problems with light pollution, and he would like to take some of the information in your presentation to the city of Hickory.
Yeah. So this is about 23 megabytes in size as PowerPoint, and I think our university is on Gmail, and I think you can do 25 megs as an attachment. If not, it'll convert it into a Google Drive thing that you can get a link to open.
Okay.
So if someone will email me, and I can present that to them.
We'll try to get that. We'll get it to you somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have a question, Dan. Those phosphorescent absorbing light bulbs, are those easily available at like Lowe's and Home Depot?
I don't know. I got mine on Amazon.
Okay.
So they're not real cheap, a pack of a couple of them. I don't remember what they cost, but I could look kind of quickly.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to make a quick announcement here. If you would like to go ahead and visit the food trucks for lunch, please do. If you have a couple of questions that you would like to ask Dan, go ahead and come up here because you have to talk into the microphone on this computer. And we hope you enjoyed the talk. Thank you, Dan, for presenting that information. I learned a lot from this.
There you are. So it's $23 for a couple. So it's not real cheap, but their LEDs last a long time. And
Okay.
I don't know about these others. They may be just as good. So you see
Okay.
you're spreading. Okay.
And the breakout programs will begin at 1 o'clock. And we have planetarium tickets at the registration desk. Okay, you sit down in the chair here.
Okay. Lights and they're bright as headlights shining.
Dan.
Nine of them shining in my.
Bob Eskridge here.
Yes. Hey, Bob.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Have we a better definition of light trespass that we can follow up on if we have a problem?
Okay. In general, light trespass is like from a neighboring property, and there's no number specified. I know that Blowing Rock, North Carolina, near Boone, had a light trespass limit, and they specified how many foot candles of light could fall on an adjacent property. I don't remember what the number was, but you can look that kind of thing up.
Wasn't there something like 1 foot candle at 25 feet into your property?
I don't remember it. The Blowing Rock code was the only one I've encountered that had that, and their ordinance was, in my opinion, not specific enough. They didn't have light values. They had something like light. You cannot have lighting in excess of need. Well, a good lawyer would eat that up and spit it out. So that's why when we developed the Boone ordinance, I said, let's tie these to IES lighting recommended practices, the actual numbers. And that's what they put in the code. So,
I think we need a better definition of what we can legally use for North Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know. So this case that I was involved in, there was no ordinance in the area. This was a private development. In fact, these two people bought the houses on the end of that road because they wanted the dark, because it ended on some kind of a forest. And oddly enough, they had a break-in a vehicle there, and the perpetrators had that light to light their work, and then they ran into the woods. They got away. But what I was going to say is this was not a statutory case. This was case law. So the case law is where you base it on similar cases that have been taken to court. And this could well be a precedent for North Carolina.
Anyway, thank you. Just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Sure.
Well, I think that's it, Dan.
Okay, well, thanks.
Thank you. I'm glad everything worked and everything was well received here, even though you probably couldn't see the.
Yeah, I had a little tiny view. I was in a funny mode, but yeah, I appreciate it. And I'll be watching some more of the meeting. I'm on the live feed. Is this feed going to continue then? This live Facebook feed?
We hope so. That's the plan.
Cool.
We're just going to do it for the keynotes. The tabletop talks that are going on, actually that begin at 1, those are in different rooms. And of course, we won't be broadcasting those.
Yeah,
but
I think you sent Zoom links for the other talks, including the history talk, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Tom English's history talk. I think you sent a Zoom link for that and the Zoom link for the next talk.
Yep. And the thing at 3, we're going to do it as a sort of a panel discussion.
Oh, okay, cool.
With me and Tom English and B. Bob of BoBfest, who was just talking to you here.
The Bob, yeah.
The Bob, yes.
Eskridge, is it? All right.
Bob Eskridge. Mhm.
Yeah. My wife was asking me, so who is this Bob? And I said, I can't remember his last name at the moment, but I know
Well,
there was a Bob.
We actually have the binary Bob here today because Bob Hunt, who's a member of our club, is also here. And it used to be the trinary Bob Ariel, the telescope maker. He passed away a few years ago. So we're down to the binary Bobs now.
Okay, sounds good.
All
All
right.
right. Well, I
Thanks
guess,
for participating.
okay, should I leave this Facebook and this Zoom session?
I think so. Yep.
Okay, all right, thanks for everything.
All right.
I'll be watching in during the day. I've got a ton of things to do on my computer, so one thing will be running on one screen.
We'll try very hard to entertain you.
Thank you.
And we're going to email that piece of pizza to you too.
Oh, yeah. I'll trade that for the email or the PowerPoint. But I can send it to you guys or somebody, and then you can distribute it.
Yep. You can send it to me if you want to.
Okay. Who am I talking to again? I can't.
This is Joe.
Oh, okay, Joe. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'll send it to you, and
Okay.
with your copious retirement spare time, you can distribute it.
Not a problem. Thanks so much, Dan.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So should I